Morning viewers, it's JannLee here. I'm constructing a voiceover commentary of my very recent match versus TwelveTeen in the Crazy House World Championship. I'm aware there was a fair bit of hype behind this match. TwelveTeen has done so well in the event so far, and I'm chasing him in second position. So here we go, e4, knight f6, knight c3. Now, I have a feeling both of us may have prepared for this, and I get the feeling both of us avoided each other's preparation. So I can tell you by now here, I'm already just running on figuring out what to do from here. So I've gone for an early queen trade. That was fine. So I expected more of a6, b5, some of his d5, e4, d5, e6 sack lines, but that didn't happen. So here I've traded queens early, and I'm trying to gradually and very safely make some light square weaknesses, largely on b7, c6, d7, e6. I was thinking of playing bishop takes a6, and I saw queen at b7. I thought it looked good. Hits the rook, also hits the knight on c6, encourages queen at c8. Then I can play bishop takes a6, which is then threatening queen takes c8. So in a sense, instead of recapturing just with bishop takes a6, the idea of this is I get one extra tempo after queen b7, bishop takes b7. I nearly got two moves in a row there. It's a bit like playing bishop takes a6 and bishop b7 straight after. So that way my bishop looks at a8 and c6. So I'm already feeling good about my opening play here. Very specifically, expected an incredibly tough match against TwelveTeen. So yeah, really looking to manage time well, play the opening quickly, get a solid position. Not necessarily better, just looking to do well. Now, rook e1, pawn at e5 is to block off the file to some extent. And now his rook is also looking at my king, so pawn at d5 is to do a similar thing. It's to prevent his rook from looking at my king. So, you know, the rook on d8 was preventing me from capturing c6. Now, what can follow from here is something like knight takes d4, c takes d4. They're possible. That is one continuation. Here I have the option of bishop takes c6 or d takes c6, and because the pawn is on d5, I left it there so that it would block the rook. And already here, both sides are having to get resourceful. I'm still happy. I'm on 2 minutes, he's on 1.5. So I'm executing my strategy in game one the way that I'd like to. And objectively, I feel that Black's king is in a little more danger than White's king here. There's some light square weaknesses. So even a move like knight at e6 is a possibility. And d3, so I expected d takes c3 in fact, but d3 is a really nice move. The idea is that it's hitting c2 obviously, but if I just play c takes d3, he plays bishop takes c6, d takes c6, and rook takes d3 becomes an option. So because of that, I took the bishop on d7 first to deny him the opportunity to play bishop takes c6 himself. And he doesn't have enough knights to, because my knight covers d4, the pawn on c3 covers b4. I'm covering all the entry points for knights if he tries a pawn at c2 sack. So bishop at a4 is a multi-purpose move, defends c2, it pins the rook. And here I started overthinking things. I mean, queen at c8 looks right, and here I just thought I was close to mate, but he's got the pieces in the right spots. He's got a knight defending b7. If I go for a bishop d7, then his bishop is covering c6. So yeah, maybe there's a simpler move here. I didn't like the position I got after doing all of this sack business. In fact, instead of queen at c8, perhaps I should just take the rook on d7 and then play rook at b8 and progress more sensibly and slowly that way. What I did here is end up putting myself in a position where Yeah, even queen takes c7 is probably better, then it's threatening knight at d6 mate. Now I don't really have an attack on his king. He's actually very safe now because I prepared this knight at c6 stuff, but he can just play king e8. So now he's got two queens in hand and he's starting to mobilize them. And he's making me consume my pieces on my side of the board, so it's harder for me to attack. And black's standing better now. So I thought I got out well out of the opening. I was good on time, and I've come down to half a minute each here. So not too impressed with how I'm making use of good position. G4 is just knocking the queen around, but he can start taking all my pieces here. So this is just better for black. Better for black now. I think, yeah, bishop takes d7, maybe rook at b8 before, and then follow with queen at a8. I kind of used up all my time on bad moves. Queen at a4 is a good move, just grabs another knight. So black can just keep picking off material. At this stage, we've got 15 seconds each, so I'm trying to at least get myself in a position where I may be able to win on time. Now bishop at d5 critical to keep my light squares covered. So just fighting for my life here, keeping as many pieces as I can around the king. He's trying to make a dent. Queen h6 is a good move. I was planning queen at g7. Now it's just crazy. We're just pre-moving. And I expected TwelveTeen to win from here because he's so good when it's short on time. And I just kept coming up with enough checks. So queen b2, something to watch. It just goes on. So I've got 2 or 3 seconds each. And still going. So eventually I got him with just 1.6 seconds left. So not the start I was looking for. Was good out of the opening, was good with time, and just didn't execute in a good position. End up taking that first one on time. So yeah, I mean that settled the nerves for me a little bit because I know against a player like TwelveTeen, the late stages of the game are actually very important. Now here I actually prepared the French, and he's played knight c3, and from here I'm already out of preparation. I've actually kind of made something up on the spot, and then I ended up executing this line more than once during our series, and it worked out quite well for me. So here I'm normally playing this as white, so I know it's very easy for white to play. I threw in queen h4, something a little bit different. I feel like I've seen Oppa Wesen play this before, and the idea is that it encourages white to castle, but then you can grab the knight on c3 and play knight at g4, and suddenly black stands stronger because both f2 and h2 can't be defended. If bishop at g3, knight takes g3, and the mate threat on h2 is renewed. So already here I'm feeling like black's better. Now questionable here if the next move should be knight f2, but I wasn't going to think too long in the opening. I thought this looked very strong because after rook f2, knight f2, then you get to threaten the queen on d1 and rook at h1 mate. And again, I'm doing well on time. So here I'm feeling really good. I've won the first match, albeit on time, but coming out of the blocks well. So rook at h1, mate threat in 1. If knight g3, knight takes d1 is very strong for black. Rook takes d1, pawn at f2, pretty much looks like mate. He resorted to queen at e7. I have to take that, and that's to defend with bishop at h4. I thought a little while here on where should the king move. In the end, I was thinking it's either f8 or e8. I decided e8 just because my dark squares are weaker, so it's less likely to get checked. Now here I could have played rook at h1, checked, king h1, knight f2, king g1, knight takes d1, rook takes d1, but I found I'd have 2 queens and a pawn in hand, and it wasn't going to be easy for me to penetrate. He'd have a lot of minor pieces in hand, so I opted for just simply knight f2. I felt having the bishop and the rook instead of an extra queen was more valuable to start an attack. The idea of queen h3 is to threaten both queen h2 and rook at g2. And he covers that with queen g1. And here I'm looking for how can I continue an attack now. I've got a pawn, I want to use it. Pawn at g5 was considered. But in the end I thought, well, let's threaten to put a rook on f3. Or potentially, you know, if g takes h4, queen f3 can come in now as well. I expected bishop b5 check. And then I would get bishop d7, bishop takes, knight takes, I get another bishop in hand. Surprised I didn't play bishop d7 though, I think that's my original thought. Perhaps I felt if bishop d7, then bishop takes d7, knight takes d7, and bishop g2 was going to knock my queen away and help him defend f3. So knight c6 is more to deny him of any diagonal piece. Now rook at f3 doesn't really do anything. He made a decision that this wasn't dangerous enough. Rook at f3, king e1. So I had to be resourceful here. Queen f3 is just to push the king off g2. Well, the king's sitting on f2, but it's defending g2. And then rook at g2 is now threatening. So if something like queen h1, I can play rook takes e2, check, bishop takes e2, queen takes h1. You can't play queen f1 because queen takes f1, king takes f1, queen at f2 mate. And my king is very safe. So I'm down a bit of material, but really making the most of what I have in hand. So now he's given up the queen, and he's still got plenty to defend with here. So I thought I should stand better in this position still. I've got a minute 10. I felt like I've been resourceful. And here's where I should just keep the tempo up. And it's a lot easier seeing this in hindsight, but I can tell you when you're playing against 12-teen, yeah, you're not always thinking clearly. So here, queen at f2 should just be played. Should just keep up the tempo. Black doesn't really have a direct kill here, I don't think. So it's more about moving quickly and keeping dynamic. I've got a safe king. It's the clock I should be more concerned about. So here, to keep things going, I think 2 minor pieces for the queen is fine. Looking back now, I'm surprised how long I'm taking to make some pretty simple decisions. And he's defending well here too, so this isn't easy. Now, if queen e1, king e1, knight at f3, he's got king f2 and he's going to be safe. So I went for this option, but the problem is queen at g5 is very strong. And he's now got queen at d8 or queen e7. Now this is just a cold blunder. Knight takes f1. Now I know I'm in trouble. I've just lost the house. Rook at d8 and queen at e7 is still a mate threat. And then he blundered his queen, which was unusual. I felt like that was just a mouse slip. And from here I probably have mate, and I've not seen it. I felt 14 seconds to 10 seconds I should win this one. And then, yeah, we've thrown some moves in here I'm not that fond of. So I've let white back into the game. And then here come some dangerous checks, and moving a bit too slow. Queen f7 is on. And he found mate with 1.7 seconds left. He found mate f7. So, yeah, I mean, I should have lost that one anyway out of the middle game, but after an opportunity where he's mouse slipped with queen g6, I was really kicking myself after this one. That was a chance to go up 2-0, win 2 time scrambles. There would be a lot of pressure. So 12-teen's boat has probably been steadied here. We're now at 1-1, and yeah, there's a lot to play for here. You won't be able to see this on the recording, but I could see there's already about 55 spectators viewing. So I did not stream live. This is just on Lee Chess. It's great to see the support for the game. So I went down the same line again, and I was happy with the position I got with white. So in this case, I mean, with this sort of match, this level, you just got to block out of your head the last game. Preparation aside, all the stats on paper aside, you just got to play with a clear head. and focus on the moment. So queen at d6 different. Now, I don't think he liked the position he got after bishop d7. So he's going to pin my knight. You can tell here I'm having a bit of a think, because pawn at e5 is coming, so I thought maybe bishop d2, but then he's got knight at e4. And I thought queen at g3 looks like a tricky move, so that threatens pawn at g7, and it's also looking to undermine the pin on the white knight on d4 by trading the queens. So if knight at e4, I'm not too concerned. I'll play queen d6, maybe he recaptures. He played knight at g4. The idea is it now threatens queen takes g3 and knight f2. So I figure if I take the queen, he gets knight f2 check, but I move the king and I get to take his knight. So I thought he might just recapture the queen here, but he decided he'd go for knight takes f2. And here I was feeling pretty good about the position. I thought, well, I should pick up a piece for a pawn. I'm going to have to face a few checks, but queen at e2 played first just helps cover the king side. Puts a good defender next to the king before playing king f2. There are some lines with knight takes d4 afterwards, knight takes d4 and knight at g4. So like say black queen plays queen at e7, then king f2, queen takes e2, bishop takes e2, knight takes d4, c takes d4, knight at e4 check, king e1, pawn at f2 or queen at f2 and king d1. I can see that white can already run to safety even if queens come off again. So here I'm just trying to secure a piece for a pawn. And the knights are good for white here. I mean, the knight on d5 is already a very natural attacking square. He's grabbed the knight. I'm not too concerned about knight at g4 here. I've got king e1 and king d1. I'm well covered. So I want to get my knights on the board as soon as I can. And again, I'm feeling very good here. I'm up 2 minutes to 1.5. And you can see how large a difference would be if I'm already up 2-0 here. If you're a 12-teen, you'd be under pressure and not yet with a result, and having a couple close time scrambles not go in your favour. I thought queen b5 here. I thought maybe that was more risky of a few options. In the end, knight at b5 is quite simple and is just making progress. And here I should just play quicker. I felt in this series there were a few positions where I was good on the clock, good on the position, and just started overthinking things. And you'd just be better off moving quickly. So c7 can't be covered adequately here, so black's position is crumbling a little bit. The rook on a8 is under attack. So my instinctive thought if I was to play a move right now was knight a6. And that just threatens the rook. If b takes a6, pawn at c7 check, queen takes, knight takes, king takes. And I should have just gone for that. I was thinking, oh, he's got a few knights in hand, and I don't know if I'm attacking the best way. And then I just started playing a few one-ply moves. Just let's hit the queen. This looks like I could put the queen in a strange situation. I thought, well, knight a6 is looking better than this. Then I thought, oh, we'll do it with check. So now at least with the pawn on d5, if bishop takes e6, then I'll be able to recapture a bishop. And he plays a nice move, king e8 here. And all that's happening here is I'm just consuming my time when I should have just gone for something that was an easy progression. This is now helping black to develop. So bishop takes c5, knight takes c5, queen takes c5. I'm giving black play. He's going to get knight at e3 check. And I'm losing my time as well. So not thrilled with how I'm playing this game either. Certainly happy I'm getting the positions and the situations I want out of the opening. Just not executing. And after queen d5 here, maybe bishop d2 is better. Just holds on to the knight on b5, which leaves the knight c7 threat on. This just blocks it up. So I think it's just a bit of a pressure thing. Knight at d5 is a nice move, threatening knight c3 and knight at e3. And I can feel we're going to go into a time scramble here, but I'm not feeling like I've got the better side. Black's got the initiative. He's forcing me to consume my knight there, so d6 is covered. Now he's just playing safe. And yeah, clock's running down. Now I'm just in danger on the king side, so the dark squares are falling. I've had to give up a knight. And I'm now feeling he's comfortable to play this time scramble. He's got all the options. You'll see how fast he goes from here. Plenty of checks. And he's going to seal it altogether. Easy finish in the end. So yeah, disappointed with the moves like pawn at d5, knight e6, pawn at c5. I should probably just go for something more aggressive. Go with the instincts. And I'm now down 2-1 and feeling like I've had the opportunity to be up 3-0 here. And the way this goes, I mean, in later stages of the match, mistakes and slips are less likely because you're all warmed up. So I think the first couple matches are critical. So not feeling great here. I figured I'm going down the same line, but he's going to change. I don't think he's going to castle into this one. So I thought, should I try something to deviate here? Or shall we just play? So already here I thought if I play Queen h4 this time, he's probably going to recognise that Bishop e3 is safer than castles. And he played it very quickly. So here I'm wondering if I should still take the knight on c3. And here there's an instinctive nervousness with having a queen open on h4. You think, oh, I've got to make something of it quickly or else it's going to get hit. And I realised that the only piece he could take is the knight, and then I could play d takes e4, and then that covers f3, which is the only way to really hit the queen. It's kind of funny opening here where I've got the queen on h4, but I can just leave it there and pose a bit of a threat to the white king. In a sense, tie up white's pieces without being able to be threatened. And so TwelveTeen's gone into the think tank again, and he's normally quite quick with all his moves. So I still feel here that strategically I'm solid, still in a good state. A bit disappointed about losing the games 2 and 3, but got to fight on. Now the difference is here, because he's played bishop e3 first, the f2 pawn is now adequately covered. That's the difference between this game and the first, or rather game 2. And I've just got a knight developed on c6. Now again here I have the urge to play g5 just because I feel I have to make something with the queen on h4, but after g5 bishop takes e4 looks a bit ugly. So in the end I decided even if he takes the knight on e4 I'll still be alright, so let's just develop. And bishop d7 is a good defensive move. It just puts the rook on a8 in a useful spot defending the king. So both sides quite safe here, but not many trades on the board. And I feel like this isn't TwelveTeen's natural element. He likes an open position with lots of trades and flexibility. I was nearly considering castling queenside here, but I didn't like that the bishop was pointing at a6 already. He could play things like c4, try to break the position open. So here he decides he needs to open up, and queen e1 is the way to go, so I think he's preparing f3. And I decide, well, I'm happy with where my king is, happy with where all my pieces are, so what piece can I move? So h5 played, anticipating that trades are going to come along. And here he could play bishop takes e3. I was thinking things like bishop at g5, bishop at d2, but I felt after f takes e4 it gave me just a slight opportunity with knight takes g2. And this is weakening the white king more so. So if king takes g2 here, then even pawn at h3 is dangerous. he can't take it because of queen at g4. Now after queen at g5, I started seeing some nice tactics. So queen at g4 played, I'm trying to open up the h-file if he recaptures. So that's just helping me. If he does that, that's another piece bearing down on his king. But already I saw here, I think he might attack my queen with knight at f2, potentially. And I saw knight takes f4, knight takes g4, knight h3. He played h3 in the end, and that's why I played knight takes f4 so quickly. Because I grab a piece, if he plays h takes g4, I play knight h3 check, knight g5, I'm very safe, and suddenly his king is wide open. So he's made the right decision to actually take this with the queen, because now he can recapture with the knight. And here I wonder if I already have mate. Possibly not. I was looking here, if he plays king takes h2, I played g3 check, bishop at g3, bishop at h4. So here I was kind of mindful. So I just thought to myself, at this point in time, I've got to be careful of rook takes h3 because of queen at g8 check. That's very dangerous. But I just felt myself losing my time again. And here I just thought, just play practical, safe moves. Bishop at g4 is a good move. It's just threatening pawn at g2. And you can see TwelveTeen here is already having to think. I think he was banking on rook takes h3. And now he's throwing a few desperate checks at the king. I said, okay, I think my king's safe on a8, so we'll go for this. I don't want to take the pawn on c7 because of e takes d6. That's very important. So better just to tuck the king away in the corner and absorb all the checks. Now after rook at d8, very important to take with the rook first, because if you take with the knight, then queen at b8 is mate. And now his checks have run out and his king is in no better a position. So that's a good way to capitalize on a good middle game. I think around 45 seconds there, I could kind of feel myself losing the game in the same way that I did games 2 and 3. And you know, it's interesting here. I think it's critical to have that presence of mind during a match to recognize where you're going wrong, where it's not actually the game itself, but you can feel a trend and you adjust your own play. Now here I thought knight f3, I thought he might want knight f4, I thought he might like that opening. So here's where I've played a move I've never played before, queen h5. And it looked interesting. If e6, then I thought knight takes d5, e takes d5, knight at e5 looked very interesting. And he played knight f4, and I was like, oh, okay. Maybe queen f3 is good here. After e5, then d4. And these are the interesting kinds of openings where the queen can go to so many places. Both players will get out of book pretty quickly. He played knight e6 quite fast, and I thought that was good. He's just rerouting his knight to d4. That's a good play. And here I'm feeling like my queen h5, queen g5 maneuver is just looking silly. I'm chewing up time on the clock. It's not horrible, but I'm not really making progress. So maybe queen f3 was preferable instead of queen g5. I'm expecting knight e d4 here and bishop a4 to cover the pawn on c2, because I'd look pretty silly taking my queen all the way back to d1. The queen is still useful where it is. And yeah, I felt, yeah, queen e5 is nice, just hitting the rook. The knight on c6 is pinned, so I can't take it. And still I'm spending a lot of moves with the queen, but I don't mind, because black's you know, not necessarily finding easy moves either. If bishop g7 here, I've got pawn at h6, bishop f8, d3, and that reinforces the h6 pawn. Even then, knight f5, I'm not sure it's so great, but it's not the natural movement that TwelveTeen would expect. So if, regardless of objectively how this position's going, it's a bit of a strategic decision to move the queen around. Queen e4, now threatening bishop c6. And here maybe pawn at d5 is right. I felt I was happy with what I had, or even knight f3 just developed naturally. And without thinking too much, I just thought I'll go grab that rook and get a rook and a piece for queen. And I thought the pressure on the a4 to e8 diagonal would be good in future. And already here I'm thinking, should I play rook at e3 or rook at e2? What's the difference? I thought rook at e2 is going to get hit later with knight d4, so I put it on e3 where it's well defended. The idea is if queen takes a4, knight takes f6 check, king d8, knight takes d7, he can't recapture the knight on d7 because of knight at c5. And I'm starting to make ground. Now after bishop h6, is I thought, actually it would have been better putting the rook on e2. Then he got to castle very easily. Now the knight f6 threat isn't there. And already I feel like he's solving his problems. So, yeah, minor point there, maybe rook at e2 was giving me slightly more practical opportunity. But I liked his bishop h6 castle maneuver. That was a nice way to get out of problems. The idea of knight at c5 here is just to prepare knight f3 largely. And here's where TwelveTeen did what TwelveTeen does. He tries to find a way to open the position. So I thought knight takes d7, I'm standing okay here. He played queen takes c5. And I figured if I don't take the queen, then he's going to play queen c2 and it's all over. So I've got to take the queen. But I'm aware queen g2 is very difficult to defend because his knight on e5 is preventing the usual defense of bishop at f3. And his king is now very safe. So I'm not liking this at all. I think his queen sack on c5 is justified. So I'm momentarily up, a piece and a rook here, but all of his pieces are very well coordinated. h1 is very hard to defend. Maybe I should play something like bishop at f1, queen at g2, but even then, he's rolling with the initiative here. Bishop at c6 is fairly futile. Yeah, and that's just simply missing rook at f1. So that's game over here. Very quick finish. So yeah, not thrilled with my opening play there. I think I got a bit too adventurous. That was steering away from the strategic plan. So now down 3-2, and we're in the battle. We're in the fight here. We're in the real battle. Just got a momentary pause here. I think he needed a second to do something. So this is 5 games down. He's up 3-2, and we're in the thick of battle now. Both warmed up. We know what openings to expect, because generally in a series you tend to play the same openings. I've deliberately played Frenches here because I felt TwelveTeen will normally try like b4 and a3 type systems against me in our 1-0 matches. I felt if he was playing e4 today, he was probably well prepared against e5. That was just my feeling. So I figured let's just keep playing the French, and I'd done well enough in the first couple of games with it. So here I felt he may have been getting frustrated with his positions as white because he's a little more restrained than usual. And here's interesting too, where a player like TwelveTeen, it may be better to play closed positions, try to strategically outmaneuver him. Not that you should shy away from a tactical fight if that's the best way to go forward. But yeah, I felt like these sorts of positions, he doesn't have a direct line on the king. So I find he moves slower, and then that's a good practical thing to be up on time. So yeah, with this French setup, f6, e5 is a good way to progress. It opens up the rook. If you're not progressing that way, there's not much else. Here I was considering knight f takes d4, to try to win a pawn after c takes e4, rook takes f4, but I just saw that bishop takes h7 and queen h5 is so bad for black, and that's the move he would be hanging out for. He would not need to be asked twice to play bishop takes h7. So I thought I had to do something on the diagonal here. If the bishop backs off, black gets a good center, so he sacrificed a piece with 2 pawns. That's quite reasonable. And here I want to be able to trade a few pieces and try to make some progress. Maybe knight at g5 is a move here as well. I didn't see that during the match. But knight at h4, it's there largely to defend f5, not so much attack g2. And here he's trying to make some impression on the dark squares, and I'm expecting knight takes g7 very quickly here. I was surprised he thought about it for quite a while. I figure he's calculating something, but he normally instinctively go for knight takes g7. If king takes g7, pawn at g5. If knight takes g7, you've got a bishop on e5 on the dark squares, and it's hitting knights. They're easy targets. The only thing for white to be cautious of is knight takes e4, I suppose. So I think knight takes g7, knight takes e4, knight takes f5, forces knight takes f5 to cover h6, and queen g4 looks strong for white. I saw knight at g5, queen takes f5, rook takes f5, knight at h6, king f8, pawn at g7, check, king e8, g8. So I decided against playing knight takes e4. And here I'm just getting attacked by pawns. So I've got 2 pieces for 3 pawns, and I'm threatening to undermine white's attack with knight takes e4 or knight takes h6. So he decides to trade that bishop off first and then cover the h6 pawn. So that's all reasonable. The piece I have to be most careful of guarding here is that rook on f7. If he can't get a rook, it's actually quite hard for white to attack. The move bishop at h5 is to hit the queen and also keep an eye on f7. That's just defending. Here I was thinking moves like knight at e3. I wanted to move my knight so I could hit the g5 pawn. And maybe in hindsight, the right move is actually knight d7. And the critical point there would be that the knight would be defending f8. And you kind of ask, well, really, you already have 3 pieces defending f8. But I missed knight at h8. That's his backdoor route into getting the rook on f7. And I thought bishop g5 was an option. I was disappointed to find knight f7, king f7, rook at f8 is very dangerous. Had I put the knight on d7, bishop takes g5 would be stronger. So yeah, perhaps knight d7 instead of knight d5. It's a very fine point, but it's kind of crazy. You think you'd have to have a rook, bishop, knight, and queen defending f8 to have sufficient defense. Knight e3 was just putting a piece closer up the board. Knight at g6 is defending h8 and f8. We're both down to less than a minute here. So he's still being resourceful. I'm happy I've got my knight on g6 now because it's defending some critical squares at the back. And now I need to try to make some impression on his king side. And threats like queen h2 or knight at g3 start coming in here. I'm thinking, hang on, I've got an attack here if he's not careful. Now against bishop at e7, I thought knight at g3, but that's going to get mated by rook at f8 check. Knight takes f8, g takes f8, king g6, knight at h8. Oh, g5 was a square to run to though. I can tell you, when you got this little time, you're not thinking about it. So I didn't want to go defensive, and I didn't like rook at f8. And here's where I thought, okay, I'm going to go for the attack. Now I didn't see mate after queen takes h2 because king takes h2, bishop at f4, g3, then bishop takes g3, king h1, and then pawn at g2 is covered by queen g2. My checks run out, and then I mated at the back. And here I just didn't even see rook at f8 was mate in 1. Also mating his knight at f6. He didn't see it either as well. He had 20 seconds, and I had 4 seconds in and said, oh, hang on, I think I might see mate here. So I'm really motoring now. Knight g3 is in. I've got 2 seconds left. And here I'm saying, well, I should have mate. I thought he might play king h1, but geez, I left this right down to the wire. 0.57 seconds left, so look, should have been mated easy. Had TwelveTeen had mated one with 20 seconds. Really surprising he didn't see that. I had nearly actually taken my hand off the mouse when I saw rook at f8. And when he started moving, I actually had to try to get into checkmate mode very quickly with 4 seconds left on the clock. So here I'm thinking, oh well, okay, I'm not the only one who can miss some opportunities in a match. I mean, that was a golden opportunity from TwelveTeen. He's allowed me to get to 3-all, but not just that. You know, a game like that can have the momentum swing. So yeah, not thrilled with the play to get myself into a mate in one position, but thrilled that in a time scramble, you know, in a dangerous spot, I found after h takes g3, bishop at h2 was a mating combination. Okay, so let's get on to this game. I picked up a pawn early in the opening, and I'm trying to stay compact around the king. I'm happy to leave my bishops where they are. I'm expecting rook d8. I'm accepting I'm a pawn up here, and then I should try to progress slowly. I don't mind if he takes my queen. I get to develop my bishop at the same time. So the pawn on h6 is just a small claim in black's territory. To say, well, if later on, if pieces trade off and I can get something going, there'll be a weakness on g7 to exploit. It's nothing direct at all. It's very much positional, because honestly, black has the initiative here. The bishop is pinning the knight on f3, the rook is pinning the pawn on d3, he's got a bishop aimed at c3, the knight's on c6. So he's now starting to make a dent in the light squares. I have to decide here, well, I'm a pawn up, that pawn is on h6, that's my little asset, and there's a residual advantage to claim there later potentially. So queen at e2 is a move I like. It's defending f3, and it's also threatening knight takes f6. It's and now that's actually threatening g takes h3 because my knight is defended on f3. So if black loses too much material here, even a pawn or a piece, and doesn't make a dent, you know, a move like pawn at g7 is going to hurt later on. So in this case, I see knight at e5 is a good move, so that's going against exactly what I've explained. G takes h3, bishop takes f3 would be possible. So knight f6, e takes f6 is to give myself a bishop in hand to put another defender on f3. There's also some potential tricks with bishop takes c6. There could be a discovery here. Now I think he kind of took his eye off the ball here and didn't realize g takes h3 was possible. I was just checking here if knight takes e4 was dangerous, but I figured after h takes g4 I'd be okay. So every move, every tempo, every attack and defense is critical here. And I thought, yeah, if he plays knight g4, I've got queen e4, so there's no knight f2 fork because queen takes e4 is check. If he wants to play knight takes f2 first, then queen takes f2, knight takes g4, queen e2 is also fine. So he took the knight on f3, and I was tossed up between taking the knight on f3 or e4. I decided in the end to take the knight on e4 because it was check. I thought he might block with the queen, but then I get queen takes f3, so I thought maybe knight at e5. He retreated the knight to threaten bishop at f3, but I've left it alone. Now here's critical, bishop at f3, you can't play queen takes f3 because it's dangerous because of queen at e1 check, king takes e1, knight takes f3 check, king e2, knight at d4. Bishop e2 is the accurate move here to give up the queen on e4 and threaten to take the rook on h8. If he moved rook g8, I'd get bishop takes f3 for free, so he decided he'd go this way. Now here I've got options, and again I'm doing well on time, and I just force myself not to think through this too much. I don't know if knight at g8 is the best move, but I figured If I just clear the back rank and give myself plenty of time, that's a better practical play than what I've done in games 2 and 3. So I'm really hammering myself here from my experience of the losses in earlier games in this match. And even here, I'm not confident I'm going to find mate. At worst, I can play rook at e1 to cover the back and be safe. But here I just thought, just keep moving. You can't let the time get away from you. 12-teen is so good at putting pressure on the clock. And he's making it if he's defending very nicely here. Here I'm thinking is rook at d8 the move, knight d8, rook d8, king takes d8, bishop d6. But I felt after knight at e8 he's just defending nicely. I've got to look out for queen at e1 check, king takes e1, knight at g2. I'm getting mated at the back if I run out of pieces. So he's making me sweat here, and I decided rook at e7 held on to more material. And here I'm feeling like knight at b4, bishop e3, there's some natural moves which are helping me stay resourceful while keeping checks on the king. And now rook takes e5 is check, so he gave away a knight with check, and suddenly I have mate in 2. But see here I've got 26 seconds, I'm comfortably getting to a mate without necessarily seeing it all. And you know, that last win is out of a practical decision. I think game 4 was much the same. It's a practical decision. So now I'm up 4-3. I'm going, okay, I've got a chance here. Got a chance to win it. I've missed some opportunities. He's missed some opportunities. I've turned it around from 3-2 down. So we're going to head into this again. So really fantastic match so far. I mean, we're both pushing each other here. And it just adds another element of pressure. So the viewers won't feel this, but you know, the miss from 12-teen missing that mate when he's 20 seconds on the clock, that's just driven by pressure. He's saying, well, you know, I've got a chance to flag JannLee here, and it makes you sometimes do things you just never do. So here again, I'm looking at this h5 maneuver. And last time he played f3, and I got a good position. I thought he might vary here. And again, I'm happy on the clock. We've played this a few times, and it's worked out for me. Now c4 has really started deviating, and here I'm not sure how I should proceed. I didn't think this next one through, and this is probably me trying to manage the time, but I already knew from a prior game g5 didn't look good because of bishop takes e4. And after I played it, I thought, this looks pretty ugly. Bishop takes e4, d takes e4, he can just play bishop g3 and trap my queen. And if I play g takes f4, it looks like he can play knight at f3 and he's solving his problems on his king side. So I feel like g5 has just blocked my own queen in and wasn't really part of the plan. Having said that, I mean, c4 is a good move. It's getting another pawn to do things with. And here I don't like my position at all. If I back off, I could back off. Queen e7 is maybe okay. But I feel like it's getting into a position that 12-teen likes. He's got a very safe king. He's going to have a lot of pieces to penetrate on the dark squares. So, you know, I'm thinking here, or g5 question mark. Why was g5 played? It just helps open up white. Going down on the clock again. So this is just an act of desperation to try to keep 12-teen on his toes. I think queen at g5 is already looking good here. You know, if rook f8, knight takes g4, h takes g4, knight at f6 check, it just looks ugly. If he was going to play queen at g7, I was actually going to be daring enough to play king e7, and after bishop takes f4, rook b to g8. But I think it's still good for white. He's just taken the pawn on f4 here, and he's saying, well, I'm up a whole queen. What are you going to do about it? And that's a fair enough question. So not thrilled with this game. G5, big blunder, big mistake. And that's the thing, you know, we're right on the edge here determining, should I play quickly to manage time? The F3 I felt gave me a few opportunities. I got a few dark square weaknesses. It's nothing special, but I just felt I had something a little bit to play for here. White's fine. I tried to make some play with H4. I guess pawn at H7, I should probably just take it with the rook here, and if queen at G8, then play knight at F8. I just felt like he was making me use up my pieces where I didn't want to put them. If he plays queen at G8 here, I'm not taking a queen, I'm probably going to play rook takes H7. Now after F takes E4, F7 is hanging. I've got to be careful of sacks like rook takes F7. And he finds a nice move here, pawn at G6. I thought, well, I get to cover the back with knight F8 and cover the rook, and then I see queen takes F7's coming. So here, this is all over. He just mops up the pieces. And that's a nice way to get in. Pawn at G6 was a nice move. So yeah, the rest is pretty trivial here. If you go and give a free queen to 12-teen, he will make you pay for it. Believe me. So here is just playing on for the sake of playing. If I play b6, he can always play something like pawn at a6 to prevent the black king from getting away. But this is just sensible. He can just take pieces, make sure he's not getting mated. He's not going to be in trouble on the clock. So I'm looking at 4-all here and already getting my mind in the mindset to play the next match. So 4-all is, in this format, 4-all is when the pressure's really on. That's where, because we're only playing a max of 10 matches, at 4-all, only the person that wins the next match the next game can actually win the match. So, yeah, if I point out the spectator count now, just on Lee Chess watching live, there were 79 spectators I saw. That's a lot of players for a Crazy House match. I mean, of course, it's much higher for some of the chess matches, but with, you know, now hit past 81 spectators. I mean, I feel like a lot of people were watching this match that were not necessarily watching the others. Okay, here knight at h5. So I really wanted to push the envelope with this game, and he had queen at e5 check here, where I could play bishop b2. Queen takes b2. He decided he'd take b2, and I went quite aggressive on the back. And I was all out practical play here, not really thinking quickly. There might be something, you know, very accurate, like queen at e5 check instead of rook g8, where that queen gives another defender on the diagonal. If something like queen at e2, bishop takes. No, not so sure actually. Here's where I thought I had rook takes h8, and maybe it is better that he went this way. The problem for me is queen at e5 would clean up two rooks. So if king d7, rook takes h8, queen at e5 check, bishop e2 to cover the knight on h5, queen takes a1 check again, then queen takes h8, winning the other rook. So I have to play rook d1 first, or else after rook takes h8, queen at e5, and it's game over. So that's the ultimate forking sequence for black. Queen at e5, forking the knight, two rooks and the king, and then queen at a1, winning a rook and forking the king on e1 and the rook on h8 anyway. So bishop d4, resourceful block here. He's saving his bishop on h8, and he's avoiding the discovered check. He's also threatening bishop takes f2, which is going to be very dangerous. So I was thinking here bishop c3, but I felt the bishop's already covering a dark square, so we should not have it. We should not have it move off its post just yet. Let's get safe properly. And I feel here that black should be better, but if white can get some good development and good activity, there may be practical chances. So it's making 12-teen think here. If pawn at c3, I can just play bishop takes c3. So he doesn't have a nice, easy, aggressive move to progress. He's going to have to hold on to his material and defend wisely for a little bit. So he's down a minute here, and I'm thinking, well, let's play practically. And the rook on g8 is defending g2 if white castles later. So d6 is sensible. Now bishop c4 I thought was a good move because I'm getting out to f7, and I feel like I'm getting solid here. And he comes up with a brilliant move, queen at f5. This is one of those critical middle game moves that can make or break a game. He's not only defending f7, he's threatening c2 and h5. Losing either of those is critical, because losing c2 then also, my bishop on c4 is hanging. So queen at f5 is a brilliant move here. This is not the kind of move that's always considered the winning move in Crazy House, but it just puts me in a spot where it's very difficult to find the next move, and it makes bishop c4 look really silly. Maybe bishop d3 was more sensible, but that's easy to say in hindsight. There's now queen c2 and he's threatening the rook on d1. So I've got to look for some safety. And here I'm feeling great. I'm going to be down 5-4. And it was just at this moment I said, hang on a sec, rook takes c8 and I've got a bishop at f5 fork. I didn't see that earlier. Just saw that on the moment. I thought, hang on, I've got a fighting chance here. So material, I'm down 3 pawns, but looking better than before. And here I just wanted to find another quick move, and the moves just weren't coming for me, because if I move to knight, he gets pawn at h3 in. Maybe I can just take it, maybe it's fine. So yeah, I just was not finding a move that I liked here. It just took too long. And so that time advantage I had is now gone, and he's finding natural moves now. Rook at g8 is a good defensive move. So yeah, just kind of mentally froze there. Now, knight h6, so playing for something on the diagonals. I think bishop at f5 is now looking like something. But now I've got 15 seconds left, and this is not where you want to be. This is the practical situation I'd been avoiding. And here, with the pre-moves, 12-teen will really make you feel like you're 10 seconds down, as if he's got a lot more than that on you. Let's see, I felt like the checks are just coming in here, rapid, fast. And I'm not equipped here to make better moves. And then queen at g8 is blundering a queen, so after that it's all over. Even then, black was already better. So not feeling good at all here. I know I'm going to lose this match. I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to be down 5-4, so I'm not going to be able to win this match. That's going to be disappointing. And so now I'm fighting for my life to get a draw or a tied series at 5-all. And I've got the black pieces. And he seems to have resolved the problems from the opening. So I'm feeling up against it. If he wins 6-4 here, then the points are getting critical now. There's a number of us that could be chasing second place. 12-teen now should be safely in the final because he's already on 5 out of 5. He's got a minimum of 5.5. So instead of playing knight f6, I mixed up my move order here. I just went knight c6. And after knight f3, he's not going to get the same opening with knight ge2. So I'm normally playing this as white. Today I'm playing it as black. I expected in the castle I was going to go into bishop takes c3, knight takes c3, go through some sharp lines, really fight hard. He went bishop d2. And this is just nearly a well-known line in Bughouse. It's a double knight sack with queen h4 to follow, and then you're forking the king and the knight. If the king runs up to e3, it's just dangerous. I think maybe something like bishop c5. It's not pleasant to play. I'm not seeing that much deeper, but this is not an uncommon position. I've got 2 pawns for a piece, and I've displaced white's king a little bit. Queen e2, and now black just has to play active. If you let white get the knights on wherever he likes, like knight at h5 is a nice spot for the white knight. So here I'm going to have to play aggressive, and all I've got is pawns and bishops, which isn't great for getting in. If he plays knight at f3, maybe pawn at g4, but he went knight at f2, so I was a bit disappointed at that, because I thought knight at f3, pawn at g4, I figured he saw it, but then I saw pawn at h3 was a threatening way to make some ground. If g takes h3, bishop at f3, threatening the queen, threatening pawn at g2. I don't think TwelveTeen was looking for this in this particular opening. He was probably looking to get solid pretty quick, and turn it around and push me off the board. So I could already judge here by his clock that he was struggling a little bit. And without much thinking here, I'm just saying knight's defending g2. I don't want to play hg, knight takes g2, then he hits my queen. So I'm going to hit his knight on e1. And already here I feel if black can recover a piece for a pawn, black should be doing well in this position, because black has the initiative. Black has got 2 pawns for a piece. So already here I'm feeling pretty good. I'm looking at 2 minutes 30 versus 1 minute. And so here I'm really focused to try to win this match to secure half a point. It's so critical at this stage of the candidates round robin. So I have to already concede that TwelveTeen has won the candidates round robin event. He will finish on the highest score. I don't think anyone can get past 5.5. But here I'm like, well, after g3, I have options. Bishop takes f3 is threatening queen at g2 mate. But I saw queen takes f3 was just less risky because my queen's not under attack, and it's very dangerous. If knight at h4, I can actually play bishop takes h1. And he can't take my queen on f3 because of queen at g2 mate. Bishop b5 check, that's a little bit futile. I can play king d8, step out of the way of that. And queen takes f2 is also a threat. So knight at d4 was trying to make some play with knight at c6 check here, I expect. But he's left mate hanging, and I was pretty sure queen f2, king takes f2, knight at g4 would be mate. I was just calculating the lines. If king g1, queen at f2, if king e2, queen at e3 check, king d1, knight f2 mate. So very happy, very relieved to take that last match. We go to 5-all. So that's a tied series. I think that was a fair result. We both missed opportunities. We both pushed each other. There was momentum swing. So no one ever really had it. There were games won with white, games won with black. Thrilling match. Hope that was great for the spectators to view. I've got a few chat comments here. We've given each other our respects after the match. I explained to him, I think, I was lucky to get away with a mate in 1. It felt like he hadn't seen it still after that match. So he said, which game? So, there was not just rook at f8, but I think knight at f6 check would have been good enough to win as well. So yeah, you can't see all the chat here that's followed, but I was explaining him which game. I'm reading it out here. He said there was some high quality stuff, and he gave me props for the one game where I found mate with only 0.5 seconds left on the clock. So, wow, that was an intense match. I would have liked to win it, but relieved to walk away with half a point. Let's go look at the standings again. That still puts me in a decent position. I think just recently Opelwezen won against. We've got the stats and the cross table here. So Opelwezen recently won against Blitz Bullet. Blitz Bullet was one of the few players that still had very high potential. He was on 2 out of 3, so he could have still got the 6 out of 7. He's now on 2 out of 4. Look, Krosky's fantastic. He's got an update at this straight away after the matches. So I'm on 4 out of 6. TwelveTeen now on 5.5 out of 6. The most that any other player can reach is probably Blitz Bullet or myself to reach 5 out of 7. So TwelveTeen has already taken the candidates round robin first position with a round to spare. So of course it's now a battle for second position as the top 2 players will battle for the World Championship in the final match, which is 60 games. So that's what I'll be looking to secure. So yeah, let's see what can happen from here. I mean, yeah, Blitzball's the closest. Ekarf on 0 out of 3. He could make it to 4 out of 7. Juanet on 1.5 out of 5. He can only max out at 3.5 now. Opelwezen on 2.5. Could still make it to 4.5. Master Tank can only make it to 4. All You Need Is Love can also make it to 4.5. So look, there's still a race for second position. The final round for each player is actually going to be critical. I'm happy with where I am. I've played 6 matches. I've got 4 points. I've got a chance of getting to 5. But look, my last round is against All You Need Is Love. Every match has been tough in this event, and All You Need Is Love is one of those players that's been able to match it against me during the last decade when we played on Fix. I know what he's capable of. I know what he can bring. I'm expecting him to prepare well. I'm surprised he hasn't had the credit of more points this tournament. I think he's had some chances and he's just had quite a few 5-alls come off where he may have had the opportunity to win. So, All You Need Is Love. A lot of respect for him. He's going to be a tough match in my last round. But look, there you have it. They're the standings. So congratulations to TwelveTeen for already taking the candidates round. It's now up to the rest of us to battle for second place. It's also a battle to finish in the first half. Third place and fourth place also take prizes. So $30 for third place, $20 for fourth place. So yeah, that's about it for now. Just so you know, this is updated pretty much on the minute by Krosky. If he's watching, go and check it out. The link is just above here. It's HTTPS. It's at sites.google.com site and Crazy House World Championship. Okay, I'm going to go take a break, enjoy the rest of my Sunday. Hope that gives something for the fans to cheer for. I think that was a fantastic match. It's still great contention for the second position. 12-10 is in. Let's leave it there. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you for supporting Crazy House. Great to see 80 viewers watching the game today, and hope many more watch this video and enjoy that. Until next time, I'll be on same time next week. It's actually 7:30 PM GMT on Saturday 6th. I'll be taking on All You Need Is Love. So I will see you then. Stay safe. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. Bye for now.